Qutub Shahis were descendants of Kara Yusuf from Kara Koinlu. Okay. Qutub Shahi dynasty was founded by Quli Qutub Shah. Qutub Shahi dynasty was founded by Quli Qutub Shah and assumed the title of Sultan. So he declared independence in the year 1518. Okay. So his period Quli Qutub Shah starting with 1518 to up to 1543 up to 1543. So a little background: he traveled from his country. He traveled to Delhi along with his uncle, and later he traveled to south, that is to Deccan, and served under the Bahmanis. Okay, served under the Bahmanis. So due to his successful leadership in military conflicts, he received a title known as a Qutub ul Muluk. He received the title Qutub ul Muluk. So in 1518, as he declared independence of Golconda, he was a contemporary of Krishnadeva Raya. So Krishnadeva Raya was a ruler of Vijayanagara, a powerful ruler of Vijayanagara. So he was contemporary, and his brother also, that is his brother Achyuta Deva Raya. Both were contemporaries of Quli Qutub Shah. Okay, let's go further. So he extended his empire by capturing the forts of Warangal in Telangana, Kondapalli, and Elur and Rajahmundry. It's in Andhra Pradesh. So he also defeated Sitapati Raju, a ruler of Khammam, and captured the fort. So he was able to extend his empire up to the coast of Andhra. Okay, he forced Orissa ruler Vishwanath Dev Gajapati to surrender all his territories, which are located at the mouth of the rivers Godavari and Krishna, which the river, the location that the territory located between the mouth of river Krishna and Godavari were asked to be surrender. Okay. So he was extending his empire till he was defeated by Timmarasu, Prime Minister of Krishnadeva Raya. So the first ruler Quli Qutub Shah, he was killed or assassinated by his son only, by his own son, known as Jamshid Quli Qutub Shah, while offering prayer. So while offering prayers, he killed his father. Okay. So followed by Jamshid Quli Qutub Shah. He ruled for a period of 7 years. So coming to the throne, suppose his elder son of Quli Qutub Shah supposed to ascend the throne. But Jamshid blinded his elder brother and he usurped the throne. And he forced other brother like Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah to flee Vijayanagara. Jamshid was so cruel, and he did not care about anything, and he died of cancer in the year 1550. So soon after, he was succeeded by his son known as Shuban. He was succeeded by Shuban Quli Qutub Shah, and he was a child that time. So a region came from a court of Ahmednagar to take care of the affairs. Okay. So he was followed by, so once he passed away, Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah. He was a son of Kulik Qutub Shah. He was son of Kulik Qutub Shah, came back from Vijayanagara and ascended the throne. So he ruled between 1552 up to 80. For a period of 30 years he ruled. So he was the fourth Sultan of Golconda. So basically he was in exile for 7 years, and he adopted the Telugu language or Hindu tradition in his exile. So he was called as a Mulkiba Rama. In Telugu he was called as a Mulkiba Rama, his famous name, and in some of the records or official documents he also he wrote name as a Mulkiba Rama. Okay, he was a patron of arts and Telugu literature. He patronized art and Telugu literature, and he sponsored Telugu poets. He sponsored Telugu poets like Addanki Gangadhara, Singanacharyudu, and Kandukuri Rudrakavi. Like these poets were patronized by him. Going to the next. So he took advantage of internal conflict. So he took advantage of internal conflicts whatever going on in Vijayanagara Empire during the period of Aliya Ramaraya. So along with the other Deccan sultans except Berar, he declared war against Vijayanagara. So it's like he personally betrayed Aliya Ramaraya. So when Ibrahim Kulik Qutub Shah was in exile for a period of 7 years, so Aliya Ramaraya gave him the shelter and all the honor he got from him, and he learned many things he learned Hindu tradition, culture, and he followed the style of food or dressing style, speech, everything. He followed the Telugu the Hindu tradition. So this policy was followed by throughout his life. Okay, policy was followed by throughout his life. And here one important thing is when he was in exile, he got married with a Bhagirathi Hindu woman in a Hindu tradition. So basically Muslim rulers will not do that thing, but being in exile, so he adopted the Hindu culture and tradition, and he got married in a Hindu tradition, like how the mantras we read and tie a thali. So all these things were followed by him. So he also patronized other languages like Arabic and Persian, and he developed a fort or lake known as a Hussain Lake, which is located in here Hyderabad. So once you visit the city, you can see Hussain Sagar Lake, and you can see the Ibrahim Bagh too. So in a way, he personally betrayed Aliya Ramaraya. So because he has given the shelter and all those things, and until he waged a war against him. He waged a war against him, and in Telugu we can say that a famous sentence, "Tinninti vasalu lekka bettadu," which means like where he ate, used to destroy that place. Okay, so he has in a way he has no gratitude. So it's meaning like that. So after war, he had a chance of extending his empire. So he conquered or he invaded important hill forts like Adoni and Udayagiri in southern part of Andhra Pradesh. So he died in the year 1580 and succeeded by his son. So his son was Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah. Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah ruled from 1582 till 1611. So basically he was a son of Ibrahim and Bhagirathi, women, Hindu women, where Ibrahim married in Vijayanagara Empire. So he was born to both of them. So he was a good poet and he wrote poetry in Persia, Telugu and Urdu. He was a good poet. Okay. So he was the first author of Urdu language, and his poetry, whatever the poems or works written by him, is compiled into known as a Kuliyat-e Quli Qutub Shah. Kuliyat-e Quli Qutub Shah. Okay, and he is also known for constructing the city of Hyderabad. Once he constructed the city of Hyderabad, he shifted his capital from Golconda to Hyderabad. Okay, the city of Hyderabad is basically we can see on the southern bank of Musi river. Sometime the question was asked on which river bank the Hyderabad is located. It's a Musi river. So it was constructed in the year 1591. And so to construct the city, he called many architects from different parts of the world, to the city to construct it. And it is said that he named the city, there are theories, he named the city in remembrance of the fourth caliph, or also known as the first Imam of Islam, known as Ali ibn Abi Talib. So on his remembrance, the city was constructed. And the other one is a Charminar. Charminar is 4 minars which is constructed, and it was constructed in the year 1591, where the plague disease got, and because of that one, to eradicate it one, this was constructed. Okay, the other one, beside Charminar, there is a Makkah Masjid. So Makkah Masjid also was constructed by him. Okay, after him we see Muhammad Qutub Shah. So the first one being the Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah, and now Muhammad Qutub Shah. So only that Quli is missing here. So remember. So his reign from 1611 to up to 1626. Basically he was son-in-law of Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah, and he married only daughter of Hayat Bakhsh Begum, only daughter of him, that is known as Hayat Bakhsh Begum. So during this period only, the first history of Qutub Shahis is constructed as written. So first history of Qutub Shahis is written. Okay, after him the other one comes, that is Abdullah Qutub Shah. Abdullah Qutub Shah is a seventh Sultan. So he was a sixth Sultan. Was the sixth one, he was a seventh one. Okay, so he is for unlike Quli Qutub Shah is also like lover of poetry and music. And during his period we see only he was succeeded in demolishing the Vijayanagara Empire, which was decaying. So already Vijayanagara Empire was decaying, so he completely demolished and captured Vellore. Vellore is a place in Tamil Nadu, northern Tamil Nadu. So it was last capital of Vijayanagara, which was captured by Abdul Qutub Shah. So during his reign, Aurangzeb tried to invade. Aurangzeb was at the Deccan as in charge. So he made Abdullah Qutub Shah to be permitted within the fort of Golconda. He was not allowed to go out of Golconda fort. So he was restricted within the fort on the command of Shah Jahan. So till he was just Aurangzeb was in charge of Deccan. So to soften this one, he had a matrimonial alliances with the Mughal. So he married his daughter. He married his daughter known as Padshah Bibi Sahina to the elder son of Aurangzeb, that is known as Muhammad Sultan Mirza. So he was given marriage to his son. But when he died with the unhappy. So he was not happy when he died because of the invasion that will be taken place by Aurangzeb. Okay. So the last ruler, that is Abdul Hasan Thani Shah. Abdul Hasan Thani Shah. So he was a last ruler of Qutub Shahi dynasty, and he was a son-in-law of Abdullah Qutub Shah. He was son-in-law of Abdul Qutub Shah. So Tanisha means first Tanasha or Tanisha. Tanasha means like a child saint. Tanasha means a child saint, whereas Tanisha means a benevolent ruler. Tanisha means a benevolent ruler. So we can see in his court a famous ministers known as Akkanna Madanna. They have made a very good revenue policies which brought revenue to empire. So followed by Kancharla Gopanna, or he is also known as Ramadas. So his story begins like he was a Tahsildar of the place here in close to Bhadrachalam in present day Telangana, and it is said that he diverted all the public funds to construct a Rama temple in Bhadrachalam. So for this, for diverting the public funds, he was jailed, or he was imprisoned by Tanisha. So after 12 years, he was released from the jail, where following a dream of Rama to Tanisha. So Lord Rama came in a room to Tanisha, and he has given a gold dinar or something with a Rama image. So he felt it's like a dream, but by morning he saw the kind. So by realizing it's the truth, so he released this Ramadas. So from then onwards, he started the tradition of sending the pearls to Bhadrachalam. So sending the pearls to Bhadrachalam every year. That is on the day of Sri Rama Navami. On the day of Sri Rama Navami, he used to send. So this policy or this tradition was continued even by his successor rulers or successor dynasty, that is Nizams. Nizams also follow this one, and now the Telangana government also follows the same. So now coming to the political history, why it is invaded by Mughals. So in the Tanisha, in basically he refused to be a vassal under Mughals. He didn't want to be under Mughals. So for that he refused to pay taxes, paying taxes, and he is also had a relation with the Sikandar of Bijapur. He was a last Sikandar means a last ruler of Bijapur. So this matter concerned very big to the Mughals. So they thought to become worst, they wanted to conquer it. So during this period only, Golconda was attacked by Aurangzeb. So during this attack, there were commanders like Khwaja Abid Siddiq, or known as Kulich Khan, and Nawab Ghazi Uddin Khan Firuz Jung. So these two were grandfather and father of first Nizam. First Nizam, who was the person started Nizam dynasty, Nizam Asaf dynasty, are known as Nizams. So in the year 1687, so Bijapur was in 1686, and followed by 1687, Aurangzeb succeeded in capturing Golconda. So he succeeded in Golconda, and the Hasan Tanisha was Abdullah Hasan Tanisha was surrendered all what he had, like he had with him diamonds like Nurai Iron Diamond, and Hope Diamond, Wittelsband Diamond, and Regent Diamond. With all these diamonds made Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb one of the richest monarch in the world. So once he all this booty was taken by Aurangzeb, he became the richest emperor. So Abdullah Hasan Tanisha was imprisoned and put at the Daulatabad fort. So like that, in the Golconda. Hello, we completed till the political history of the Qutub Shahis. Now let us deal with the administration of Qutub Shahis. So for every empire, administration is one of the important topic. So let's deal with the administration of Qutub Shahis. So Qutub Shahis basically divided into two categories how they did administration. So that is basically one central administration, then the provincial administration. Divided into two, that central administration and provincial administration. So here we see the supreme authorities are Sultan is the supreme authority, and all the powers are rested in his hands. And he is the chief of the army, he is the chief of the judicial matter, he is the chief of executive matter. All the legislative matters also was rested in his hands. So but he was just assisted by it leads to his own decision whether to take it or not. But to assist Sultan, there was known as a council of minister. He was assisted by council of minister headed by prime minister. So between the council of minister and the Sultan, the prime minister plays a major role. It's like a second important person who involved in administration of the central government. Okay, this council of minister known as the Majlis-e Divandar. This one important terminology that you remember, this one, Majlis-e-Divandar. Okay, going to the different departments. So King was, as I said, king was assisted by different ministers. So he used to distribute the work to different minister. So distribute the work to different minister, and we see the name of the ministry and what the role they played. Okay. So basically, I said PM was as a head, or he is also known as a Peshwa, and sometimes also played the role of Mir Jumla, that is finance minister. Okay, now we see that Ainul Mulk. Ainul Mulk is the minister of the armed forces. So he is the sole responsibility after the Sultan in paying the different or strong activities of the army. Then we see next person, that Mir Jumla. Mir Jumla is a finance minister. So all the finance matters of the dynasty or kingdom used to be taken care by Mir Jumla. So whether how much money or expenditure dedicated to particular work, and how to collect the revenue from the different kind of people. So all these works were said to be done by Mir Jumla. Then we see next person, that is Khajandar. Basically, Khajan means treasury, and Khajandar means treasurer. So he's the head of the Khajandar, and he gives it tells always that how much amount is there in the treasury. And whatever the taken, he has to maintain the records, all those things. Then we see next one, Majumdar is a controller general of audit. And so he used to audit the accounts. There will be, if there are sometimes there will be illegal work, that is illegal accounts. So to take care all these accounts, the Majumdar was appointed. Then next we see Shurwanis. Shoharnavis basically a record keeper. Okay, he records all the happenings, uh, transactions within the empire. Then we see next person, that is Kotwal. Kotwal was known as a Havaldar, and is a civil officer. Civil officer means he used to take care of the law and order. So law and orders are perfect in the dynasty or empire. So he used to take care of the law and order here. Okay, next we see Circle. Circle is chief revenue officer. So he takes care that everyone paying revenue. So his work is dealing with the revenues. Then next we see that Ain Mulk is minister of battles. He takes care that whenever the battle is happening, so all the regarding the battles taken care by him. Then we see Dabir. Dabir is a judicial officer, and he used to execute main judiciary activities after the Sultan. So Dabir is said to be like a chief justice by English people, the British people in India. They used to call Dabir as a chief justice. Okay, the next one we see Shabandar. Shabandar is a chief of port towns. So for there was a port in Qutub Shahis. So it takes care all the regarding the works of port towns were taken care by the Shabandar. Okay, next go to we see how the kingdom, how the empire is divided. Okay, so whole as a whole there is a kingdom, and that kingdom is divided into provinces. The kingdom is divided into provinces. So the provinces are known as tarafs. In Qutub Shahi period, the provinces are known as tarafs, and there were around 6 tarafs or 6 provinces in Qutub Shahi period, and each taraf is headed by tarafdar. Taraf is headed by Tarafdar. Tarafdar is like a governor of the province. Then next level we see that Sarkar. So after the Taras we see Sarkar. Sarkar is kind of district. There were 37 sarkars were there, and each sarkar was headed by Fauzdar. Fauzdar in modern day, Fauzdar is like a district collector. Okay, so sarkar is a district and Fauzdar is the district collector. So you need to remember this terminology: Taraf, Sarkar, Pargana. So need leave about the provincial district. This for understanding I have given this one. Okay, and next level of administration is Pargana. Pargana is kind of taluk. Okay, and it is headed by Tahsildar. Pargana is headed by Tahsildar, and there are around 517 Parganas are there. In the Qutub Shahi dynasty, there were around 517 Parganas are there. Then the next level of administration, that is the lowest level of or least level of administration, is the village administration. So village administration is basically done by Ayagars. Ayagars doesn't mean that all the Brahmins. So here Ayagar means the village elders. All the village elders come together and they do the village administration. So village administration is basically mirasis. Mirasis means hereditary form. So village administration was a hereditary form. Once father is ruling, he passed away, the power comes to his hand. Then to his hand, like it is a hereditary form. So Ayagars were nothing, but they were called as the Balutians, which means a strong men. So they were called Balutians, which means a strong men. So it was Ayagars where there were around 12 members to administer the village. So each member will be coming from different caste. So there are various caste of the people in this village administration. Okay, we see some of them like we see 12 of them. That is one. The first one is being the Patel. So Patel is basically a Munsif. Munsif. Then we see next to Kulakarni. Kulakarni is a Karanam. Kulakarni is a Karanam. Just write it down. Kulakarni Karanam. Then next to Chowdhury. Chowdhury is head of the traders. Is the head of the traders. Next we see fourth one, that is Fauzdar. His role is to exchange of coins. His role is to exchange the coins. Then fifth one, Deshpande, is basically take care of the statistical works. It is known as a statistician. Okay. Next Nahani. Nahani is a barber. Then next Sutar. Sutar means carpenter. The eighth one, Parit. Parit is a washerman. And ninth one, Guru. Guru is priest. And 10th one, Kumbar. Kumbar means potter. Then the 11th one, that is Vetsara. Vetsara means gatekeeper. Is takes care as a security guard. Then finally, that is 12th one, Joshi. Joshi means astrologer. Joshi means astrologer. So we see the next one, that is coming to the literary part of Qutub Shahis. With that we finished administration. Now what are the literary contributions the Qutub Shahis have done? So we see Qutub Shahis during this period, Qutub Shahis period, since they were from Iran, they basically patronized Persia and Arabic. Since this is their language, they patronized these two languages. And after coming to the Deccan during the Bahmani period, slowly the Urdu was getting prominent. So during this period, the Urdu also patronized by Qutub Shahis, and Telugu. Telugu is these Qutub Shahis were known as Telugu Sultans. So we see that no credit to the other Deccan Sultanates. So we see for the Qutub Shahi, they were known as on the regional name as a Telugu Sultans. So because they patronized Telugu very well, so they were known as a Telugu Sultans. So every sultan in one or the other way contributed something to the literature, either maybe Persia or Urdu or Telugu. So some of the sultans who played a major role, who patronized a language of Telugu, like, and how they contributed to it, let us see. So during the period of Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah, you remember Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah, he was in exile for 7 years in the kingdom of Vijayanagara. So already we saw in the political history, so he was in exile in the Vijayanagara kingdom, where it had happened that he has learned all the Hindu tradition, culture, and along with that Telugu, and he has become a Telugu poet, and he adopted its culture. Okay, and he married a Hindu woman, and in the with the tradition of Hindu tradition. Basically, Muslims marriage is different from the Hindu marriage. So he married that woman, knows biography, in the tradition of Hindus. Okay, so once after the 7 years, once there was no strong ruler in Qutub Shahi's dynasty, he ascended the throne. He ascended the throne of Qutub Shahis. So once he has become the Sultan, so he has begun. So we need to remember one thing, that he was there in exile for 7 years, but along with his fellow Deccan Sultanate kings, so he waged a war against Vijayanagara. So during the Aliya Ramaraya period only, he waged a war against him. So it shows some kind of negativity on a part of Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah. Okay, we see the literary contribution that is contributed by Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah. So he used to he used to patronize the poets, like he patronized Singanacharya. Singanacharya is a Telugu poet who is known for his writing Nirvastha Ramayana, which in this book which says about the Lord Rama and his son of Dasharatha. So it says about him. Then we see the next one, that is Gangadhar Kavi. Gangadhar Kavi, his work is a Tapati Samvarana Pakyanam. Just go through it. And it was dedicated to Ibrahim. So since he was the court poet of Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah, so this book was dedicated to him. Then we see next one, Kandukuri Rudra Kavi. Is also very well-known poet. He wrote his work is Nirankusho Pakyanam. So one of the important work, and other one is Sugriva Vijayam. These two works are by him. So Sugriva Vijayam is a Yakshagana. Yakshagana means is kind of a act of play. They dance and they tell like a story. So in a form of song, they tell the story. Okay, it's a beautiful act of Telangana people. Okay, then for his contribution, Kandukuri Rudra Kavi was gifted a village by Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah. Remember the name of the village, that is Chintapalem. It is one of the neighboring village of Kandukuri Rudra Kavi. Okay, the next one we see, next poet, that is Ponaganti Telaganarudu, and he has written Yayati Charitra. And it was dedicated to Amir Khan. Amir Khan was like one of the feudatory of this Qutub Shahis or who patronized Punaganti Telangana. Okay. Then we see next one, period of Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah. Basically, Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah was a scholar in Arabic and Persia, and he himself has written work and poetry and compiled this as a Kuliyat Kuli. Kuliyat Kuli. We see here Kuliyat Kuli is a work by Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah, and it is written in Urdu. So, as I said, Urdu played a prominent role. We can also say that is a during the period of Qutub Shah is a golden age for the Urdu literature. So, Urdu has taken the status of literature and has become the period for a golden age. So, Urdu golden period. Okay. Then next we see Krishnaya Matyudu, he has written the work Rajaniti Ratnakaram. Krishnaya Matyudu has written the work Rajaniti Ratnakaram. Then we see Saranga Tamaya. He was also an officer. Officer means he was an accountant or known as a Karanam. He has written. Just wait a minute. You see, what Vaijayanti Vilasam. Saranga Tamaya has written Vaijayanti Vilasam. Okay, the other one we see Raja Malla Reddy. He is also a feudatory of Qutub Shahis who ruled in and around the Medak district, Medak area. So he has written several works like Shatachakravarti Charitam. Shata Chakravarti Charitam is a work by Raja Malla Reddy, and Shivadharmottaram is another work by him only, and Padma Puranam. So these three works were contributed by Raja Malla Reddy. And we see next one that Bhakta Ramadasu is also known as a Kancharla Gopanna. As already I have told, he was there during the period of Abdul Hasan Tanisha. As he was a Tahsildar of Palvancha. He was a Tahsildar of Palvancha, and who diverted all the public funds to build a temple, a Rama temple there in Palvancha, that is Bhadrachalam. And for his activity, he was put in a jail by Tanisha. Okay, so the Bhakta Ramadasu has written some of the work in a Dasharadi Shatakam. So he has taken Dasharadi Shatakam. Okay, then the other one, Maranganti Singanacharya, he has written Dasharadi Rajaniti Charitra. Okay, these are all some of the literary works, and there are works which are in Persia and Urdu. Okay, that was contributed. So we can see this Persian Urdu works even in the Indian history who has contributed. Okay, now coming to the next one, that is economy of the Qutub Shahis. Qutub Shahis economy. Qutub Shahis were one of the richest people or richest dynasty that was there in the Deccan. Among the 5 Deccan Sultanates, Qutub Shahis were one of the richest people. Okay, and we see that during the period of conquest or invasion of Aurangzeb said to be acquired with certain diamonds like a Kohinoor diamond, Hope diamond. With all these diamonds, we spoke already that Aurangzeb has become one of the richest monarch of the world. So that much vast empire it was. So they had why they were vast means they maintained all the activities perfectly. So the vast revenue used to come from the agriculture. So they used to do the agriculture So all the revenue income, majority of the income was from the agriculture. So they had also gold, diamond mines. They had, so as we see then from the Kollur mines, they got Kohinoor diamond, one of the well-known diamond. Uh, and Golconda itself is known for mines, diamond mines. Okay, then next we will see, um, so coastal Andhra. So coastal Andhra means a place along with the sea coast. It is a fertile area in and around Andhra, today's Andhra Pradesh. So this fertile land was under the control of Golconda Qutub Shahis. So they were, so from here they get vast income from the agriculture. So since it is fertile and there used to be water always. Okay, and from the other region like Telangana we see, since it is a little dry place, the Sultan said to be dug many tanks in villages, and they also made a preparedness for digging wells. So it is said that they dig wells and dig canals for the harvesting purpose. And so like that, they made good contribution to dig wells and canals and tanks, which progressed in the agriculture. So their activities in agriculture we can see in various forms. Okay, and then next we see, uh, there was two kinds of agricultural lands that were there. That is like, one is Jamindar lands, that is owned by Jamindar, and Havali lands. Okay, so in the matter of cultivation, they used to cultivate mostly all kind of this one products like they used to cultivate paddy, okay, cereals, other cereals, and they are known for grapes. So garden of, they were used to produce grapes very well. Okay, in matter of economy we can see that is for not port, it is a port P. Okay, port. Okay, port city. So there were many other port cities, but Machilipatnam is for important port city that that has done trading activities done here. So they used to build, they have even the that navy they used to make ships for a sailing, all those things. So port was playing one of the important role in getting the income to the Qutub Shahis. Okay, next go to the this art and architecture. This is some of the art and architecture that is contributed by the Qutub Shahis. Okay, so Golconda Fort. First we see that is Golconda Fort. Art and architect. They patronize very good art and architecture during their period. So there are many prominent places that can be seen. What are the contribution they have done? Okay. Then coming to the first one, that is Golconda Fort. So it was basically first during the rule of first ruler, that is Qutubul Mulk, has made this Golconda Fort as his capital. So when he started his reign, he made this Golconda as his capital. So it is being the capital throughout its reign, in between changing from Golconda to Hyderabad. Okay, then it was earlier it was called as a Mankal. Golconda Fort is called earlier Mankal, and it was around this one, a mud fort was constructed by Kakatiyas. Just mud fort was constructed by Kakatiyas in 1143. Okay, once Quli Qutub Shah has taken as his capital, so he began to construct a wall consisting of stones and all those things. He began to construct a wall around this fort. So it is a granite hill made with stones, and it is above sea level of 400 feet above level. Okay, then we see that whole um, Golconda fort is locked by wall, and there are 8 gates to enter the Golconda fort. There are 8 gates to enter the fort, and Fateh Darwaza is the main entrance. Fateh Darwaza is main entrance to enter the Golconda fort. So among the 8 gates, Fateh Darwaza is the main one, and we can see within the fort some of the architecture like Bala Hisar, Diwan's Palace, Jama Masjid, Nayan Bagh, Silkana, all these are within the fort of Golconda. Okay, so next we see that is Hyderabad. Hyderabad is a city. Basically, Qutub Shahis were ruling in and around Golconda Fort. So the city from Hyderabad to Golconda, it is around 10 km scan. Not even that one. Okay, so 10 km. So the Hyderabad city was built by Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah in the year 1590 and 91. During this period, the Hyderabad city was built. It was built on the southern bank of the river Musi. It is built on the southern bank of the Musi river. So this architect of this Hyderabad city was Mir Muhammad Ashrabadi. Is one of the important person who also played important role in administration of Qutub Shahis as a PM Peshwa sometime. Okay, now how this city is built? The city is built taking a model of Isaf Khan. Isfahan is a city. Isfahan is a city in Iran. So taking this model, the Ashrabadi built this Hyderabad. So coming to the next one, that is Charminar. Charminar also built during the period of Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah, and same architect or chief architect was Mir Muhammad Ashrabadi, and it is one, we can say, is one of the masterpiece of the or legendary masterpiece of the Deccan. You see nowhere else in the among the Deccan Sultanates such kind of architecture. So that is the night view of the Charminar. And why it is called Charminar means we can see 4 minars are there. So 4 minars are there. So this 4 is known as Char. Ek don tin char minarets in English. Okay. So next coming to the other one, that is Mecca Masjid. Basically there are only 2 Mecca Masjids are there. One is at original Mecca, where the Prophet Muhammad had lived. So that place is known as a holy place of Mecca. So why the same name as got in Hyderabad? So it is just little away, just 100 meters away from Charminar. So we see here. So it is here only somewhere. It close by. It will be there. Two where close by are there. So this is the Mecca Masjid. You can see on the picture. It's one of the biggest mosque. It was built by Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah. So in this mosque, the 10,000 devotees can be accommodated. So 10,000 devotees at a time can accommodated, and at can do prayers. and this is one of the model of the mosque, as the name come from Mecca, so they taken the model of the mosque of Mecca. And why it is named Mecca Mosque is important. So all the materials like to build the Mecca Mosque, stones, bricks and cement, all these were brought from Mecca and constructed. And it took around 77 years to construct the Mecca Masjid. It is started during the period of Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah, and it is completed by Aurangzeb. So when Aurangzeb has annexed the Qutub Shahis to his kingdom, to Mughal Empire, so he has completed the remaining work of the Mecca Masjid. Okay. So to supervise the work, to build the supervise the work, Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah has appointed Mir Faizullah Baig and Chaudhary Raja. These two people were appointed to take care of the work of the Mecca Masjid. Okay. Next we see that is Purana Pool. Purana Pool is nothing but it's just a bridge, a water bridge which was built. You can see in the picture a water bridge that is built. Okay, Purana Pool is a bridge built in, still it is built in the 1578 during the period of Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah. So it has got long, it's a 22 arches it has got. So this is the arch. So like that there are 22 arches with a long of 600 feet long. Okay, this is the long that we can see, and the breadth, that width, how length width is around 35 feet broad, or width is there. So this Purana Pool bridge is built because to connect, it is since the river Musi river flows in between the Musi and Golconda Fort. To connect these two, the bridge Purana Pool is built. Okay, and when French travelers visited this Qutub Shahi's reign, he visited in around 676. So he was impressed by this Purana Pool, and he compared this Purana Pool with a French bridge, that is Pont Neuf. So he compared this Purana Pool bridge with a French bridge, that is Pont Neuf. Okay. Then next we see the tombs of Qutub Shahis. So the whole entire reign of Qutub Shahis, there were around 8 sultans who ruled over the Qutub Shahis. So we can say 7 tombs of sultans. 7 tombs of sultans here. 3, 4, 5, 6, and other one a little bit side will be there. It's not seen at this time. So 7 tombs are constructed as a memory of them. So what about the 8th Sultan? 8th Sultan was the last Sultan, who is Abdul Hasan Tanisha, who was taken as a captive by Aurangzeb. So he was imprisoned in the Daulatabad fort, and he survived till 1700. So in 1687 was the period where the Qutub Shahis were taken over by Mughals, and from there he lived for 13 years, and he was died there in the Daulatabad itself. So he was buried at that place. So near the Aurangabad he was buried. So that's why you see only 7 tombs of the sultans, Qutub Shahi sultans. So you see the next one, that is Hussain Sagar. Hussain Sagar is a tank built by Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah. So we can see the aerial view of the tank, that is Hussain Sagar, that is built. So it was built by Ibrahim Qutub Shah, but it was named after Hussein Shah Wali, who was the main person or chief architect of this tank, and he is also said to be a Sufi saint in the court of Ibrahim Quli Qutub Shah. So it covered around area of 1.5 miles. Okay, so the area here is a 1.5 miles area, we can see that one. And in between this statue of Buddha, it's a monolithic statue of Buddha. It was constructed, or it was erected in the middle of the Hussain Sagar in the year 1992. In the year 1992, this monolithic statue of Buddha is erected. So it is we can see very beautiful view from the side. Okay, this one basically last one, that is ruler. This is about the Hayat Bakshi Begum. So Hayat Bakshi Begum was a daughter. So she has seen through her eyes. She has seen three rules, like so through her she has seen through rules, like her father. So she is a daughter of Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah. She is a only daughter of Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah, and she was married to Sultan Muhammad Qutub Shah. She was married to Sultan Muhammad Qutub Shah, and she was also mother of Abdullah Qutub Shah. So she has seen the three reigns of Qutub Shahis. Okay, now what is the importance about her means? So once her husband passed away during the regency of a son or minor son. So when he was a small kid, so she has began to rule over this Qutub Shahis, and she has made a vast contribution in that, and she is known as a Ma Saheba. Just to written it, Ma Saheba, for her contribution. Ma Saheba. So she is known for a Ma Saheba in her for her contribution in various ways. Okay. So she said to be constructed the Khairatabad mosque in Khairatabad within the Hyderabad town in memory of her tutor or guru, that is Akhund Mullah Abdul Malik. So in his memory, the mosque was built. This is the Khairatabad mosque that is built in memory, and we see she also built Sarai, and this is the Hayat Nagar Grand Mosque. This is Hayat Nagar Grand Mosque, which is built by her, and on her name we see that Hayat Nagar, one of the part of the city near outer or ring road, Hayat Nagar. So it is built on her name. So the construction or the architect model of the Khairatabad mosque is done by Hussain Shah Wali. Hussain Shah Wali, who was the architect of Hussain Sagar, same person has taken this Khairatabad mosque architecture. Okay, so this is about the Qutub Shahi's administration, literature, and the other one, art and architecture. So dear friends, for the more updates from my channel, please subscribe the channel. Thank you.